Hey guys, I just at the last minute decided I really wanted to talk a little bit about joint movements. We're going to be practicing them in class, but there's actually quite a bit of details there. And you have a little bit of this happening in your anatomy classes, but I want to make sure that we can talk about this a little bit too so you know what's up. Oh no. Sorry, taking me back to the start. Okay, passive joint movements. Passive joint movements means that the client is passive. In other words, they don't have to do anything. And really, this is probably what you will most likely be doing, especially in Swedish massage. Um, and many times, clients, they don't want to get off physical. They just want to lay down, relax, and let you do the work. So that's where passive joint movements come in. They're relaxing, and you're stretching their arm over their head. Say, like we did this, we've practiced this. We've done the hip movements when they were supine, and I showed you how to move the knee and rock it around and pull. It's gently stretching and moving the body part, stretching the connective tissue. It can be able to determine what their normal movement is, or just to be able to improve their range of motion. Active joint movements are a little bit trickier. Well, not so much if you are just trying to assess someone. And when the active range of motion movement is involved, it's just when they're telling you they're having trouble with your shoulder and you're like, okay, well, let me see you do this and see if they can reach up all the way, or can they reach behind them? Or how is it when they flex their arm? Um, so they're just showing you, and you're using it as assessment to be like, oh, they're only making it up to here. We've got some issues that might be tight muscles here. So, or inflammation or pinched nerves in the shoulder. Assistive, active assistive joint movements is when, say, they're having a little trouble with one of those. And so they use their muscles and then you push to just help push it a little further. Active resistive joint movements is a little has a little more nuance. So say they are having trouble with arm flexion. And so you'll gently put a hand here and here. First, they'll do it themselves, see how far they can go. And then you're going to resist gently while they um, actively do their arm movement. And let's do this like 4 times. You resist a little more, but let them go through. Resist a little more. Maybe 2 hands on here, not too much pressure. Resist a little more, and then let go. And always make sure they can complete the action. It doesn't have to be all the way around. It wouldn't be that way on a massage table. And so that helps build strength in the weakened muscles that might be inhibiting them from being able to complete like their full joint movement. Now, the only person I've known that's done that has actually been my old chiropractor. Oftentimes, what's causing a resistance, like a pathological resistance, like a problem resistance, is usually due to nerve damage or tissue damage, whether it's scar tissue, inflammation, something is stopping them from being able to have their full range of motion. So, what could stop them? The anatomic barrier is actually a natural thing. When you extend your arm, extend your elbow, bam, that is that's a hard end feel. We'll talk about that again in a second, but that is as far as you go because your ulna and your humerus do not, they aren't going any further than that without breaking something. So that's an anatomic barrier, and that's a hard end barrier. Now, a physiological barrier, it can be considered that. I mean, that is physical, but a lot of times say this is as far as I can medially rotate my shoulder because all of this tissue is now in the way, and that's it. And that's natural, and that's fine. Pathological barrier. Path means disease. So this means something is out of whack. For some reason, they can only get to here. And that's, where we come in, whether it's just loosening up the tissues or doing some resistance, doing things that help tweak those problems. Each one is actually has room to study. Like I'm working with a couple people with like frozen shoulder type issues right now, and I still research like what's another way I could help them. Okay, I know we've talked about this in anatomy, but here's just a little bit of um, reinforcement. So the hard end feel, bam, bone on bone contact. That's as hard as it's going to go. Like you're stretching it out, ding, it's it. Now the soft end field, say you're extending my arm, flexing my shoulder up over, and then that's just like a little squishy place, but that's where it's going to stop. So it's springy. That doesn't hurt me. If you kept going, it would. But we're not pushing to the pain limit here. We're just, that's your springy, painless, soft end feel. Now, what they call the empty end feel is when you get to here and it just stops. And it's not like hard, and it's not the springy, nice, natural one. It means there's a barrier there that shouldn't be. That's what the empty end feel is talking about. So people do love those stretches. And the one that I showed you that was like supine, where you were moving the knee, and we're going to practice that tonight being Tuesday, and you're probably watching this later in the week, but can actually really help release and the pain and tension in the low back. But it says it warms and lubricates articulating surface and joint capsule, and it does, like it increases your synovial fluid the more you use it. So one of my mentors was what she said, like the motion is the lotion, which sounds kind of funny, but movement is what keeps your joints flexible. And the more you sit still, the more you're going to have joint pain and lack of flexibility. It affects proprioceptors and mechanoreceptors. So that's proprioceptors are knowing where your body is in the universe. And I don't remember what mechanoreceptors are. It stretches your fascia of the associated muscles. Remember that we are full of fascia. It's what's holding every little bit of every little muscle and everything together. Flex, stretch, and warm the tendons and ligaments, your connective tissue. Just a little reminder, tendons attach muscles to muscles or muscles to bone. Ligaments attach bone to bone. So they are actually bigger, stronger, and more of an issue if they get hurt. That's a sprain, say. Mess up a tendon, it's a strain. Mess up your ligament, now you've got a sprain. It increases your range of motion, flexibility, stimulates fluid movement through the muscles. So there are a lot of good effects of joint movements, and we'll experiment with those, but I wanted to get down a little into the science of it. And there'll be a brief quiz after this one. And then we're going to move on to classification or documentation and intake. So see you in a little bit.